Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. I've got a box of Solar Auxilia infantry here. And when I saw this on the shelf at the local store, I went, ooh. And then I saw that it was actually epic scale, so I went, ooh, again. And then I saw there were 104 miniatures, and I went, ooh, again. And people looked at me because I keep making strange noises, but that's about par of the course. So yeah, I have not had a chance to check out any of the modern epic stuff, and I've got a very soft spot in my heart for the classic scaled stuff. And so when I saw I've got a box of 100 dudes, I don't think they're going to have that detailed of paint jobs. I mean, GW makes it work. I just couldn't help but be curious. Price was right. That always helps too. And let's see what I just got myself into. Can I even open the box? That is entirely debatable. Okay, that's it. That's all you get. So, check these out. I can't open this with my bare hands, obviously. Whee, bases. Gone are the boring black bases of yesteryear, and instead we've got these nice textured ones, and they're very thin in comparison to a typical GW base. How do I know that? Because I've got a typical GW base right here, and you can see they're about half the size. I was not aware of that. I feel like these things are probably like a gold mine, basically, because, well, they're the right scale. What, they're like 25? 28 millimeter? I don't even know. 25? You are not a GW model, but you're cool nonetheless. Cobra mode. You can check them out anytime. So we got those bases, and we've got two sprues, a whole two sprues. We'll take a closer look at those in a sec. So one thing that's noticeable is there's no actual set spot for said models to go on the base. They kind of give you an idea of who's going to be in the command sections, of which I believe there are, well, it tells you right here, there's one of each. Okay, and then we've got our various auxiliaries. Again, nothing too complex. We've got the Velatari, Flamers, and then we get to the actual models that you get to build, of which we get 4 stands of the typical Ogren with their cool drill hands and clamps. So they look like they're 4 pieces. And then, this is kind of interesting, we've got a couple of Sentinels. How many Sentinels do I get? 4 of them, not bad. But you can see these are a little bit more in depth in terms of parts, so that's kind of cool to see. Curious how big. I mean, it takes up most of the base. You get 4 of these in a box, so I'm guessing 2 to a sprue. Let's take a closer look at those. So teeny tiny. I don't know why, but whenever I see these auxiliaries, I think of like the laser burn Ion Age stuff from alternative armies. And I can't help but think maybe I should paint some up in like their reds and whites like they do. I mean, they're not like super complex detailed. You can still definitely see there is some detail to be had. I mean, they're absolutely tiny. Let's not kid ourselves here. Flamer section. So I guess when we get to the Sentinels, or those are the Ogren arms, I think. Yeah, there's the clamps. So they're going to be pretty decent sized in comparison. Some big fat legs of them. These are pretty massive Ogren if you think about it, because if that's a human scaled model, I know this is, you know, kind of wonky epic scale, but considering just the legs are as tall as the human, it's kind of funny. Various legs and rockets of our Sentinels. I believe these are the torsos of the Ogren. Some backsides of the Flamers. So that you can see there's, I mean, if you really want to go at it, there's definitely some detail behind. You can see like the wiring and pipes and stuff on them. But you know what? Let me get some of these put together. We'll take a look at them and see how they turn out then. Sit tight. Okay, now that we got things nice and zoomed in, and I mean really zoomed in, we can start taking a look at our Solar Auxilia. I'm happy with them. They are tiny though. Look at these tiny little men. So this is one of the command stands, obviously. I almost finished putting together an entire sprue. Remember, we get 2 sprues to a box. A pox, well, if I have Death Guard and Nurgle dudes, I guess that would be the case as well. The Axemen were the Velatari, I believe. At like a four times zoom here. Some of our basic auxiliaries. Like I said, this is most of one sprue. Oh, I think we have the flamers here. Yeah. So most of the poses are repeats. However, there are 1 or 2 unique sculpts on every base, with, you know, 3 or 4 being repeats from one to the next. I do have a few, maybe 2 or 3 more stands worth of basic infantry included on one sprue. So, I mean, that's a nice start. But then we also have, more interesting to me, the things which we actually had to build. The Ogren. And again, they're pretty large in comparison. Charonite. Also, we have everything on the camera. And then the Sentinels as well. So it's nice that we have some kind of, you know, basic infantry support here. And obviously, like I said, this is just one sprue, so we're going to get 2 more stands of each of these. So the way the Ogren work is both of the arms are repeats. So you can have the clamps on either the left or the right, or I guess if you really wanted to be boring, you can have one guy with just clamps. It is doable. Of course, if you have like 3 boxes, you can get really funky with it. Taking a closer look at the Sentinel. Quite nicely detailed. Am I going to give it a detailed paint job? I'm not 100% sure. So I actually built the missiles incorrectly on this one. They're supposed to be going upwards, but it's not like I think it's going to make a huge difference. Are those rockets, though? I don't think those are missiles. They're whatever I want them to be. Now, things start to get interesting when we start to look at what else is offered out there. Personally, I'm really curious to see how Mantic's new stuff is going to stack up with these. I'll be honest, as fond as I was of the original epic scale stuff, I don't own any anymore. It's been quite a long time, and as prices have gone up, it's always kind of mystified me why no other companies really kind of stepped up. Yes, I know there have been quite a few over the years, but it's very much entrenched in typical 40K. And I mean, it's not like the 3D printing stuff is any better, you know, obviously. So I grabbed some of the 3D printed stuff. I've been slowly but surely working my way through a 3D printed Emperor's Children, just because I could. So you could see, I mean, obviously the Auxilia guys are going to be a little bit smaller than a typical Space Marine, but they don't look, you know, significantly out of place. They do look smaller, as they should. Grabbing what I think are far more interesting is when we start to see unique armies that maybe haven't actually been put into plastic or resin or metal or anything. There are AdMech armies out there if that's something that interests you. And again, you can see not too much difference in size. Obviously, these bases are just about the same thickness. You can mix and match. I'm curious how they'll stack up in those cases. Grabbing an extra base. Because recently I started working on some of the Maker Cold armies. Hey, that's actually a pretty good size fit. And I've already got the files all printed up for that, so grabbing some of the more unique hero type models. Again, they're really going to stand out in comparison to the humans when we start grabbing things like the Ogryn or the Sentinels, however, I think that's when things are going to get interesting. And yeah, there are 3D printed Grey Knight armies out there. If you're in the mood for squat mechs. Now grabbing some of the dreadnoughts I've got laying around that are actually already painted. I mean, they're not too drastically different in size. I thought this was an interesting comparison. There are dreadnoughts, or centurions, I'm sorry, out there of various breeds. Not too shabby in terms of scale. And I mean, I think with this size also, you could start to get really interesting and creative mixes if you're not glued to one game system. I can't help but think that Trader Galaxy's, what are they called? The Red Guard, I believe. They're armored dinosaurs with evil Soviet cyborgs riding on top of them. Might be a fun mix to have as a epic-styled army. I think it wouldn't be too out of place. But the other fun thing about these scale models is, you know, if you start to get really interesting and weird monsters, you can come up with some really interesting scenarios. Why not have giant Pokemon? Some of the more bizarre stuff from the Dragon Trapper's Lodge might make for some fun I mean, this almost looks like a Monster Hunter encounter as it is. So, I know there's fun rules out there. If you guys have any rule sets you would suggest for smaller scale stuff, I am absolutely interested. Some of the worm creatures from Dork Factory's somewhat recent Kickstarter, again, make for some great monster encounters at that size. So, I mean, honestly, I'm figuring we've already got a fair amount of bases to work our way through in just one box. And the fact that I have a whole nother one is going to really give me a nice little group of models to work with at this scale. And I mean, I'm honestly probably going to go grab my old Mantic warpath rules, at least for the time being, because I thought they were pretty straightforward and clear in terms, especially the original stuff. But I'm really curious what's coming from Mantic as well. That's not the biggest endorsement of a GW product, but I figure, you know, if you've watched me enough, I'm always looking for interesting things to do with these models. So the fact that you get quite a bit of variety here, you get quite a few stands, I think with just one box alone, you're going to have a nice start of things to goof around with on the tabletop. And for me, that's always a big plus. So I'm happy to have these. Definitely going to be checking out GW's website, because I don't even know what other stuff is actually available in this Legions Imperialis line at this point. So I probably should look up on that. That's what happens when I just kind of take a look at this stuff and, you know, instantly drift on to the new shiny object that catches my attention, unfortunately. But that is one of also the cool things about doing this, is there's plenty of new shiny objects always vying for my attention. So hopefully we'll see more of those in the near future. And with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.